Line Podcast. All right, podcast number 11. We have another special guest, and you know how we like special guests. Tim Humphrey is in the building. And Tim, how do you feel about being is he number 4?
Yep, number 4.
He's number 4, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're the 4th guest at the beginning. How does that? And I'm going to say, for video-wise, it's going to be awkward because you're going to be looking back and forth. That is awkward, but...
Not a problem. No, at guest number 4. I think that's a good thing.
Oh, yeah, especially when it turns into this giant empire.
Right.
Like we just talked about earlier about dreaming big.
Well, also, if you're one of the top 4 people, and we contacted you, right? You contacted him?
Yep.
We talked about it in episode 3. Because one of the episodes we talked about bear hunting and wolf hunting. We're like, oh, my God, we need to get a guy that knows that on the cast. So it was early. So if you think about we contacted you and you're one of the first 4, that's pretty cool. It's not like you're like, oh, you're the 100th guest for the first time. Because we want to get these guests back on. Mm-hmm. Like, we want you again on another time for a different season type thing, too. But totally. I think it's cool you're number 4. He's pumped. He's just smiling over there.
No, it's not just Tim and I go way back.
Yeah.
Way back.
Actually, Aaron as well.
Yeah, we did a wolf.
No, bear.
Well, bear first.
Yep.
And then we tried to do wolf. Was it bow and arrow in the blind?
No, actually, the guy did have a gun. Well, no.
Well, there was a guy that was
both.
Both. Okay. Because I was like, how sweet would it be to get a wolf kill on film with a bow and arrow?
Yeah, Jake sat with that. Steve was his name.
Yep.
And that was tight quarters. That would have.
Well, you were saying, hey, I've got trail cam pictures of these wolves coming into this bait pile, but you were saying, I still remember you said they come through one day and then it takes them like 4 or 5 days to recircle, and if you see a wolf, hence probably they've seen you or smelt you way before you saw them, type of thing.
Totally. Yep.
So I was sitting in there, I'm like, all right, that's just sweet,
right.
Just to think of that. I'm like, wolf hunting. People are scared of wolves in a sense. I don't know how you feel about wolves, but so. To be able to hunt them, and a lot of people who hunt wolves, I mean, again, everything I say, you tell me if I'm wrong. They usually shoot wolves out of their stand when they're deer hunting, right?
That's kind of been the norm.
Like they're deer hunting and like, oh, there's a wolf, and the wolf is like 300 yards away.
Initially with the Minnesota season in Wisconsin, a lot of guys just wanted to get the license so the potential was there because they'd see a wolf while they're deer hunting, and they wanted to be able to take it if they had the chance. So there wasn't a lot of planning that went into it. They figured they'd just get the license, and if so be it, they saw one, success. But
right.
There was I had quite a few guys contact me right away because I was a bear guide, and they were thinking, hey, the woods, you probably know where these predators are. Is there any way you can bait them, get them in, try to up the success?
Didn't you try trapping?
I did actually. The first season I did draw a license myself.
Right.
And we trapped 2 of them.
You got 2, that's right.
Yep.
I figured, I remember you getting 1, I think it was, but I didn't know if you were guiding that trap line or not.
No. Okay. I was actually, the first one we released, I'd caught that in a leg hold, and I was trying to get the alpha male was my goal, to get the biggest wolf I could out of the pack and everything. And so we had a series of leg traps, and it was kind of nice because the spot, the road that we were trapping along, was the boundary for 2 packs. So the potential to get one or the other of the alphas was kind of really high at that point because they'd come out and they'd mark their territory and everything. And legally, you can't check your sets between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. Well, I have to work every day at 7. So I'd have to leave the house and get to my trap line at 5 so I could check right away.
Right.
Do all my sets and then head back home, shower, get ready for work, and be to work at 7. So the particular morning when we caught the first wolf, I was out there at 5. I checked all my sets and everything, and it was just about 8 o'clock. I got a phone call from my wife's uncle. He says, "Hey, you got a wolf in one of your traps."
Oh wow!
And he was just out checking things out for bobcat and everything that was coming shortly thereafter. And I didn't really believe him because it was just hour and a half earlier that I was out there. So we were on the phone conversing what we were going to do and everything. And he couldn't legally tend my traps or do anything with them. Well, then coincidentally, a warden came up just as he's sitting there looking at this wolf in the leg hold laying there and everything. And the warden says, "Hey, what's the plan here?" He goes, "Well, it's not my set. I'm not going to touch it, but it's my niece's husband." And we were kind of conversing. He was just out here and checked everything this morning. So this wolf came after he had driven by and checked everything. And so we had come to the agreement that I wanted to let this thing go, but it wasn't going to be till afternoon before I would be there.
Right.
So then, being that I was giving him permission to check my line, to release this animal, the warden helped him do so. And,
wow.
So they had a catch pole there, and they put it on the wolf.
I was just going to say, how did they do it?
Yeah, catch pole.
Like,
and actually, I would rather release a canine than a bobcat or something.
Oh, yeah.
The canines, their teeth are basically, they're not going to scratch you with any claws. They're just going to, if you can keep their head away from you, you're going to be safe. But a cat, you block the head and you got back legs coming at you, front legs, and
Oh yeah, there's a lot of bad news wrapped up in kitty cats.
But, so they successfully released that one, and it was just a couple days later I got the one that I ended up getting in a snare. So at that point, I didn't have. You can't really,
No,
you're
you
not going
can't.
to release that. So,
No.
So what did you do with it?
Actually got I had an individual that wanted to get a full body mount.
Ooh, that's cool. I was gonna say, like, do you eat them? Can you, or you just go for the trophy type mount?
You could. There's people that eat coyote and everything.
You can eat anything you want to eat. Believe me.
This is true.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of getting it through your head.
You're like,
me
all right,
personally,
I'm eating
I
a
probably,
dog.
Right. I would maybe give it a try, but I wouldn't be like, yum, can't wait to get some of this Timberwolf on the grill.
Right.
Wrap it in bacon.
So I'm close to actually trying bobcat. I'm going to do that one of these days.
Bobcat. So what would be your way of trying? When you say try it, I mean you cook it.
I would take some of the meat. Yeah.
Okay. So what would be your way of? Now, last podcast we just talked about cooking game meat. So how would you go about bobcat?
Translation: wrap everything in bacon.
Bacon and jalapeno cream cheese and call it a day.
Maybe after you've tried it, then you got the
Exactly,
bacon too.
exactly.
You got to try it plain Jane.
I've had mountain lion at a wild game feed before.
Right, and that's supposed to be really sweet.
Yeah, it's really good for something that eats primarily meat.
Right. So that's kind of why I'm
just turning it on you.
Yeah, that's fine. So that's hearing all the people that eat mountain lion and bobcat. I'm on a couple trapping forums and stuff, and a lot of the guys eat mountain lion, bobcat. So
yeah,
I'm gonna try it. So I'm gonna probably remove the loins out of it, back straps, and then
anytime you say back straps, I just think that's going to be good.
Right. It's
we
kind
hope.
of the choice meat on the animal. So, and then maybe just a little salt and pepper to start with, and open flame probably right over a fire,
and then add from there if need be.
Right. Modify, make some recipes, do some different things with it. So
there you go.
And how many bobcats have you seen on trail cam pictures, or like is this something where it's like, oh yeah, there's some people would be like, oh, so you just have bobcats like everywhere to the point where you're hunting them like deer? Like how many bobcats do you see that are, I mean, I've been seeing actually people saying, oh, remember a couple of casts ago we talked about a lady had one in their yard, and she's like, what the hell? And I'm sitting there like, yeah, I don't know if I saw a big cat like that in the wild, I'd be a little nervous
there's
too.
a lot of them actually.
Yeah, there is. There's quite a few.
And I guess the best way to see is if you go out in the winter and you've got the snow.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're seeing where the tracks are, so you can, same with mountain lions. I've seen several sets of mountain lion tracks in the winter, so they definitely exist here.
I was letting my dogs out maybe 2 winters ago, and a guest here said that they thought they heard the sound because they make like a distinct sound, right? Like a cat does out there.
Yeah, if you heard a bobcat, you would kind of know that. Yeah, I don't know if you could distinguish between a mountain lion and a bobcat, but
yeah, maybe not.
They're cats. I don't know. This is a good question.
And there again. That's probably why some people are like, when they do see one, they're like, oh my god, what is it? It's a cat. I mean, they've been watching you for hours before you'll even see them.
But it's just like if you see a timber wolf. It's not the typical person's going to see a timber wolf. I mean, so to them it's the same experience. A big dog, and they're like,
right.
They heard that this thing attacks.
Like I've seen
bear, yeah.
I've been on a couple of bear hunts with buddies back home. I've seen bear there. But in all my years of driving, I've only seen a bear cross the road twice.
This is
And I take a bunch of back roads. I fish all over the place. You just don't see them.
No, they avoid people. You
Right.
know what I mean?
the best way to see it is to be in your shoes and be out in the thick woods
Right.
and
You have to
experience
entice 'em,
nature.
You know, give them some food. You know, that's always going to help.
Feed them a little. Here,
Feed 'em,
kitty, kitty,
yeah,
kitty.
You know,
Yeah.
gummy bears, trail mix. They like that kind of stuff.
Bobcats?
No
the bear.
bears.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was going towards the cat. He was
Yeah.
going towards the bear.
Well, right. So with the cat, you know, scent, visual. You know, curiosity kills the cat.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
When we're trapping bobcats, we always got
Yeah.
a lure there, whether it's a turkey feather or something.
My dad, I grew up in a trapping household. That's what my dad did all through, majority of the 70s into the, I'd say the late 80s. That's when the fur trade just kind of really, because at that time when I was just a kid, I was like 6, 8 years old. In the fall, we'd go out and we'd trap for beaver, muskrat, mink, otter, fisher, pine marten, and he would snare for bobcat, fox. And back then, you were getting anywhere from $7 to $9 a rat
Right.
just for a lowly old muskrat. And I can remember going to like some of these fur sales with him. See these monster. Well, back then they were monster checks, $6,000-7,000.
Right. Yeah, and the fur prices actually went up just a couple years back, and now it tanked again. And
Yeah.
it's terrible.
It used to be a pretty consistent market,
Yep.
and then it just all of a sudden just, we know why.
Yeah, it's not popular.
It's all political
Yeah,
stuff.
it is. Yeah,
You know.
one company isn't involved in the auction, whether it be Japan or Russia or
Right.
whatever's not buying fur in China. So yeah.
The trapping is super cool.
Oh, it's fun. I mean,
Yeah.
you go out there, you look where the animal's been, you try to interpret what it's doing, why did it do that,
Yeah.
when it returns, how can you get it to either put its foot or its head or whatever part, however you want to trap it,
You have to try to
into
align
a small area.
all these stars
Yep.
with great detail. And don't make any mistakes.
Yeah, these animals spend their whole time trying to evade death. I mean, they're just there to survive. So, every step that they take is either looking for food or avoiding danger.
Yeah.
You know?
And trapping is fun. It's also a lot of work. I remember when I first started with my dad, my first job was boiling traps and then fleshing muskrats.
He gave you the fun job. Well, muskrat's not too bad.
No, I got pretty good at it.
Yeah.
I could probably still do it even though it's been a really long time. But it's a lot of work, but it's still fun. And I get into that hyper detail like you were saying, okay, I got to try to guide this critter this way into my trap without leaving my scent, my tracks,
Yep.
all that good stuff.
It's kind of like some CIA but
Yeah.
for nature.
Oh,
And I'm not knocking hunting at all. I mean, I think hunting is great, but I've always like, man,
well,
yeah.
trapping itself
you
is...
can spend a half hour in a gravel pit with a rifle and kill something. Trapping, you don't just read for a half an hour and be like, I'm gonna go trapping. And
I'm not thinking of I can't think of the proper name, not like puzzle, but like it's a mystery. You have 50 clues and you have to kind of build your story and build how you want
you just gotta
it to come about.
Well, kind of. It's more like
Well,
you have to be in the woods yet make yourself invisible.
yeah, you have to no trace. You have to go in and do what you need to do, leave without leaving your mark.
And we're talking like handling traps on a nice warm day with rubber gloves on.
Yeah.
Just you'd think, well, they can't. There's nothing. Oh, they can smell.
Oh, your
anything.
oils,
Smell
yeah.
every bit,
Yeah.
Well,
So-
let's rewind and go back to who you are and what you do. You own an outfitting company. Get into a little bit of
Very, very cool guide service, Tim.
yeah.
Thank you.
It's
Guys.
unique.
It's unique.
awesome.
That's the
Get into
the
it.
thing. So tell me about your guide service, what you do, what you guide for.
All right. Well, I'll go back. Let's go rewind to 1997. So, graduated from high school. I worked at the grocery store in Castle Lake at Teals, and so I met a lot of tourists over the course of the summer. And there was this one couple that had a place on Buck Lake, and older gentleman, and he pulled me aside one day and said, "Hey, I know you talked about hunting the one time we were in here last fall. Do you think you could take a buddy and myself out and shoot some grouse? We'd be willing to pay you or whatever. I thought, hey, that'd be pretty cool.
Make some money.
Yeah, so we set up a date and everything, and I took them out on a Saturday, and we walked 2 trails, and the guys had their birds. I mean, they were ecstatic, The limit was 5 then, so we had 10 grouse, and after 2 trails. So it wasn't even lunchtime yet.
I almost think I've heard this story.
And
I have not.
possibly. So then...
for some reason, it's bringing back memories.
Oh, you recall this?
Well, not to cut you off, because I know
No,
he
that's
hasn't
fine.
heard it and everyone else, but I feel like you almost said something like, wow, I can make money doing this?
Actually...
Or was this someone... I don't know.
No, you may have heard that. There was a gentleman interviewed me for KAXE
That might have been
on the
it. I don't
wild
know.
side or whatever it was. Yeah.
That might have been it.
So-
But okay, back
Okay.
to it.
So
Sorry.
yeah. So anyhow, he said, "Hey, here's the money we're gonna give you," and I think it was like $175 or something. I'm like, wow, I was only out in the woods for a couple hours, and he goes, "Any chance you can take us tomorrow?" Sure. So after that, just the wheels are turning and everything, and I thought, hey, I'm gonna start grouse guiding, and so I did that for a couple of years. So it was like 2000, 2001. I'm like, I need to expand into something else, because the grouse thing, it was like 2 trips a fall, 2 weekends or whatever. I'd book one group, and then, and
And then you have to deal with the cycle.
yeah. So the grouse population's good, the grouse population's bad.
Plus, full time all year, you could be doing other
well,
other things too.
right, and I only had the weekends available to me, or afternoons, basically, because of my full-time job. So so I figured that hopefully the bear hunting would be a little more lucrative, but I like shooting grouse,
Mm-hmm.
but I'd just as soon go walk a trail with my dog and do that myself.
Yeah.
So with the bear hunting just kind of popped up. There was a couple other bear guides in the area, and so I decided to pursue that. So now, I try to get 20 clients a year, which is difficult with the number of permits that are allotted. My client list is about 120 overall that I have. And so some of them go, some of them are at 6 or 7 preference points right now. So whenever they decide it's going to work for them to hunt again, then I'll have those clients. But otherwise, everybody's like on a rotation. So the guys that
So it's
hunted
like the
this year-
same. It is the same people.
A lot of repeats.
Lot of repeats.
Yep.
Oh,
So
okay.
this year, everybody that hunted is planning on coming back in either 4 or 5 years when they draw a license. More than likely, it's going to be 5 years.
And how far in advance are you booked?
So I'm 5 years out.
Yeah,
Right
because of the
Because they just keep coming.
because
Same
it's
people.
Yeah.
bear is a lottery.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Yeah.
To get the ticket.
Right.
Yeah, I get that.
Right. So like there's a group that was with me this year. They had their two kids with. They hunted last year. The parents did, and then their sons drew license this year. So their plan is though to return the adults again in 5 years, and then the kids the year after.
So what if
Again.
someone new comes in and they're like, oh, like,
Well,
do you
they-
say,
So what I do is if they want to get on the waiting list and secure a spot, then they got to pay the deposit, and so then they're on the list, and so potentially if somebody else doesn't come back in that 5 years, they'll draw a license that year and they'll get in. So that's
because from what I see, I mean, it's almost like a guarantee. I mean, you can never say that, but it's almost like a guarantee. I mean, from seeing your stuff online,
it's almost a guarantee opportunity.
Oh, yeah, yep.
And the it's last year, this year it was 100% opportunity for the guys. We finished 11 for 13 this year, 6 for 9 opening night.
Yeah,
And that actually should have been 7 for 9. The one gal missed.
Oh,
25 yards rifle. The excitement, because
Jitters.
I get everybody close.
Mhm.
That's the whole thing. I mean, some of these guys, 40, 50 yards because they're going to be rifle hunting. Well,
yeah.
I set everybody up for an archery hunt, and it's 20 yards or less. Some of them are as close as 11 yards.
Do you find that rifle hunting and bow hunting is more rifle, more bow hunting, or
I actually have a lot of archery hunters.
a lot
You
of
know,
archery?
Yeah.
and I tend to prefer that. Nothing against gun hunters in any way, but archery hunters, if you're willing to go out there and try to hunt a bear with a bow and arrow,
The skill levels.
You're pretty serious about what you're doing.
It's like deer hunting for, bow too.
Yeah.
There's a different.
They've put a lot of time into
They put
it.
more time into what they're doing, and
They're
a lot of
confident.
times the shots that they make are definitely better. One thing too, an archery hunter, that broadhead is going to open that animal up to bleed better
Way quicker kill.
than it will with a rifle.
Yeah.
So the bear may bow or arrow shot or gunshot and may go 7,500 yards. But with the arrow and the broadhead actually cutting it enough to where it bleeds externally versus just internally,
It's going to be a quicker.
Where the rifle will just go through. If you don't hit any bone or anything, you don't have an opening.
Yep.
You have an exit
And
wound, but it's small.
those bears are so fatty. Sometimes that'll
just
close
plug
up.
that right up. Yep.
You'll have no blood
Huh.
trail.
So.
I did not know
but,
that.
Yeah.
So anyhow, we can kind of go back to the, my introduction.
Yeah, you were doing the bear hunting.
Yep. Then there was people I took fishing from time to time. That kind of evolved into more ice fishing. I did quite a few tournaments like back in 2004, 2003. But I decided I was going to build a house. So I had to back out of the fishing thing for a couple summers, build the house, focus on the family type of a thing. And so then as I went fishing again, it was just easier to take the kids ice fishing all the time. And of course, Patrick knows, and Aaron, you do too. Eel putt was my favorite thing clear back to high school. So
one of probably the biggest guy in the area for eel pout, and it's such a crazy creature, and we've talked about it a couple times because you like eel pout as well.
Yeah.
And that's
where Tim and I really connect.
That is a topic that we will cover sometime tonight. But
yeah.
So
for your logo, you have a grouse.
Yes, and that was the whole design
initial
of
start.
The logo. Right away when I decided I was going to do it, I needed to get cards made.
Why'd you go? What was the name choice?
Well, grouse live in aspen, poplar trees, so
makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever asked that question.
A lot of times people will contact me and they're like, "Yeah, you're in Colorado, right?" And I'm like, "No, sorry."
Aspen, Colorado.
Yeah. So
good old. It's crazy because was trapping somewhere in there too?
Trapping was actually just something that
just on the side.
I had a friend that had done that. This was, probably 12 years ago, something like that. So never did any trapping in high school. I mean, other than snaring rabbits.
Mm-hmm.
But then, just being in the woods, it was another opportunity for me to be in the woods, see what the animals are doing.
The trapping's kind of your personal thing.
Oh yeah. And as relating back to the wolves that we were talking about earlier, the potential there, if they have that season opened again, I'd like to help guys do the trapping aspect of it too.
Yeah.
But they have to be all hands on with their traps,
Make it more of an experience for sure.
Just the legality of it.
Oh yeah. I guess never thought of that.
Yeah. I can be with them, but I can't set their traps. I can't do any of that.
And that goes. I think that rule still applies through even beaver and muskrats and do they still do the metal tags?
Yep, you got to put a tag on there with your DNR number or name, address,
and so if I was running a trap line, I was like, Aaron, I can't check my trap line
because you have to check a trap how often.
Well, it depends what kind of trap it is.
Right.
So if it's a drowning trap, where the animals
so it goes in the water.
Right, then it'd be like was it 3 days?
Mm-hmm.
Every 3 days.
Yeah.
So what's just for the people that don't know anything about trapping, kind of my question, one of the questions I had was trapping. So if people are listening for trapping, kind of that lowdown of what's your favorite thing to trap is, the different kinds of trapping that there are, from like you just said, the drowning one. I really have only seen a couple beaver things, and that's it. I couldn't even imagine coming up and seeing like a coyote like chilling in this thing, like trying to bite my ear off when I'm walking.
Well, and trapping has changed a lot since I did it as a kid. Now, Matt Brewer.
Yep.
I didn't know, but it was a couple of years ago. He was doing some trapping, him and Tim, and just hobby trapping, and I don't know, somebody must have said something, and so he did a little video, and he had a glove on, and he stuck his fingers in a leg hold trap. Mm-hmm. And he was like, wiggling his fingers. See, it's a, back when I did trapping, you didn't do that. You had broken fingers or they were gone, and that's kind of a new thing for me.
So the traps have changed to better protect the animals, I'm guessing.
Yeah, if you look in a lot of old-time photos, the traps had teeth on them. There's different things, and an animal would get its leg in there. Well, then these teeth would dig in and the animal would bleed. And, now it's just...
It's just kind of holds.
It's just
like, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah, and some of them have rubber on them. There's different ones that you can get depending on what state you're in, different territories. Some states are more liberal with it and, allow you to do more things.
I think it's a whole lot better because I can remember checking some traps and my dad would get real upset, real disappointed because all he'd have in there is a foot. Mm-hmm. The animal literally twist itself off and split because there was no release back. There wasn't this release back then, Yeah, so things have changed dramatically, but it's still the same. If that makes any sort of sense. As far as we were talking about being a ninja of the woods, that still holds.
Yeah, you've got to use all your stealth.
Yeah.
So what's the best way to hide your scent for stuff? I mean, okay, you go on deer hunting, you got the little spray, but what's the best way to hide your scent from the animals?
So there's different ways. You can use rubber gloves. Some guys will wear, rubber like hip boots and everything.
You're in like you got the mask and the whole radiation suit on type deal.
So you boil your traps. That's the first thing. Pat was talking about doing that, and so you eliminate the scent off of it. Well, then how do you want to keep them scent free? So, into the wax they go, which helps keep scent off of them. That's also
I'm clueless here. So what you dip them in like hot wax?
Hot
so
wax.
It puts a coating over the top.
So you're
gonna
have like boiling water with wax in it, and then you're gonna dip them in there. And as you pull them out, that wax is gonna adhere to the metal.
Okay.
And then form a bond on there. So that's gonna help keep the scent off. It's gonna keep the trap operating smoothly, because you tend to rust up your traps a little bit to disguise them and dye them, and then you wax them, and then so that wax will lubricate the trap as well. So it's gonna be fast. When it goes off, there's no resistance there, but that also helps keep the scent down too.
Is there a way to keep your scent down when walking, or is it just the rubber boots and the gloves?
The rubber boots and the gloves is about it. You don't want to work in the shop and have grease on you and then go out and go trapping.
Just ate a cheeseburger and you're like, we're gonna go.
That works for bear baiting.
Yeah.
I'm done with this cheeseburger. Just throw it in the pile.
Right. And grab some licorice while you're at it.
Yeah, grab a few gummy bears.
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing to?
To my favorite thing, I guess I really enjoy bobcat. It's just.
It just sound way more prominent than what I thought they were around here, which is
there's a lot.
Cool, but also.
The trapping of the bobcat, is it just because of the intelligence? It's a cat.
Right, you'd think
super aware of everything.
It is. They're very leery.
It's the challenge.
And you'd think that they wouldn't notice a lot of their surroundings, because they're really quick to focus in on any movement, things like that. But after putting trail cameras out, you can see how they approach different things. I really got a lot of information when I was baiting for wolves because I was putting trail cameras on deer carcasses from roadkill deer carcasses. I'd put out beaver carcasses from trapping. So there was actually a guy in Park Rapids I was getting all these beaver carcass from because he was huge on trapping beaver. Mm-hmm. And so he was running a real long line. They were getting 20, 30 beaver a day, so I could go down there with the trailer and just load it up with beaver carcass. And but I put cameras on it to see how the wolves would react to it. And
so you can kind of see their pattern and how they're...
Yeah, you'd see... and one thing I learned is if you put a pile of bait there, the wolves are super cautious to approach it. Same with bobcat, all the animals.
Makes a lot of sense.
They're smart,
not
I guess.
Natural. Yeah. So as soon as I started spacing these things out and would wire them to a tree or whatever, then you'd see that they'd be more apt to come in and actually eat off this.
That's like there's a $20 bill on the ground. Boom! There's a stack of hundreds. You feel a bit nervous.
The first thing you're
going
to do is you're going to start
circling around.
Where's the camera? What's going on?
This is too good to be true. Look at all this.
Yeah. So that's kind of smart. Yeah.
So, but cameras have really helped too. But the bobcat, I don't know. When the beauty of them too, when you actually get up there and you see the spots and everything.
Yeah, it's a
It would be
trophy.
cool to see it. Probably not not in a thing because I'd be nervous about approaching. But I mean, if it was stuck and I know it wasn't going anywhere, I think it'd be cool to because I've never seen one in person.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I get leery every time I let my dogs out. I'm like, all right, it's nighttime, it's dark, and they go barking after something. You're like, cause I mean, there's state forest right here.
Yep.
Makes me nervous.
Yeah. And our bobcats are good sized bobcats compared to Texas and Kentucky
Yeah,
and
they're
Tennessee.
considerably larger, just like the deer.
Yeah,
the
they-
deer up here versus deer down south.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Those bobcats down south aren't. They're a little bit taller than a tall house cat. They're not very big down there, but up here they get pretty thick. As a matter of fact, I'm going home this weekend to Side Lake, and last winter, a bunch of people got a picture of a lynx.
Yep.
Sitting on the side of the road, sitting on a rock, and that's very rare.
right. And they're actually, they've put special regulations in that whole Arrowhead region
Yep.
for trapping now. Because the way the lynx reacts to a trap and the bobcat, even though they're both similar sized critters and they're both cats, you're more apt to catch it if you put a couple, do a couple different things
Yeah.
to your set.
So what do you use for bait to get those, like the cats and that kind of stuff? Is there anything different or?
Yeah, you try to, the main thing is scent. So there's some scents that skunk essence. A lot of lures have skunk essence in it because even when it's cold, you can still pick up that scent.
That disgusting smell of skunk.
Yep.
I think it draws a lot of curiosity.
It does, definitely.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys will take glands from other cats, and they'll age them. Some of them, they'll grind them up, put them in with other, filler meat and beaver castor.
Just a bunch of gross.
Yeah, one
Yeah,
thing you
essentially.
don't want to do is if you're hanging out with an old time trapper, you don't want to reach into his spice drawer. And chances are you won't like it.
Sounds
My dad had one of them old school steel lockers
Yep.
from like an old high school out in the garage, and you open it up and there's all these weird unmarked bottles, and it was all kinds of different like urines and ground up glands and all
just
kinds
gross.
of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different things you can use, but if I could get, like during the fall when I'd waterfall hunt, I'd save all the carcasses from my ducks, the guts, the feathers, all that, and I just put them in little bags and throw them in the freezer. And then as I needed them during trapping season,
Just pull them
I'd
out.
just take out a gallon bag, and that would get me through a couple days, depending on what I needed, and spread the feathers around.
The
your
gross
set.
life of
Well,
the when someone's like the dirty. Remember the old Dirty Jobs by that one
Yeah.
dude or whatever.
micro.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
could have been on the show for Dirty Jobs. You come in wearing a bunch of guts, and you're like, all right, catching some
Well,
cats
It's
today.
not that bad.
No.
Yeah, it's just
Again, you're-
I
you're-
can smell it right now.
But
like,
you're
not on you,
you're
but I'm
trying to
just saying, like,
replicate a scene in nature, like
Yeah.
oh,
So
you know.
something died, here, something was killed here.
it's an art, right?
A skunk,
As you
a skunk
masterfully
comes up and actually eats on this, and another animal comes, so the skunk sprays at this other animal. So the skunk scent is what
Yeah.
draws in.
you're creating a scene.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's it's kind of art,
exactly.
I guess.
It is. Yeah.
And cats are cats, and if they want to, like, oh man, there's been a lot of action here. There's nobody around. I'm gonna take it. It's mine.
That's mine.
Snap.
If there was like, say someone's listening, they're like, I've never trapped, or they're kind of like me with clueless on half the stuff you're saying. What's the one thing that you would say to someone who wants to get involved in trapping, or just I don't know, they're interested in it?
Start with squirrels.
Start with squirrels.
Yep.
Yep.
So trapping squirrels.
Yep. You can snare them. You can
Can
Little
you
leg
snare
hole
squirrels
traps.
and rabbits now?
Yep.
See, back when that's how I learned how to trap, but you couldn't snare rabbits.
Oh, yeah.
But on our private property, my dad, he ran a tree farm too.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, I want you to kill every one of them you can. I'm going to show you how to make snares, and you're going to make snares for an hour or until I tell you to stop. And then you're going to go out and set them, and I'll show you how. I want them all dead because they were chewing on his little pine trees and his little
Right.
popples and stuff
Yep.
like that. And
Is the snare like the beginner, easier thing to start with?
Well, you can,
or-
if you were, okay, so squirrels, you could actually use a rat trap. You could put peanut butter on a rat trap,
drill a hole through
Victor,
the
the
drill a
big
hole.
Victor.
Yep,
Yeah.
big rat traps.
We have
You drill a
we
hole
have
through it, right? And then you can just like screw that to the, a couple feet up the tree and a little peanut butter on there, and you're gonna get your gray squirrel, whatever, red squirrels.
See those videos of them where they fling the squirrel.
Off the clay pigeon
Yeah.
thrower.
Yeah.
And then you know what a snare is, right?
Yep.
Eric?
Yeah.
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 Is it just
Picture frame
Just-
wire works well
yeah.
for
Rabbits and squirrels and stuff, and really what you can do for the squirrel is they'll take like a leaning pole. So say there's squirrels are using a lot of they're gonna go up a tree. So what are they
Okay.
gonna do? They're gonna go right up the tree, or are they gonna take this pole that angles up to the tree? So typically,
Do they typically take the
They'll
angle?
take the angle pole. So you would put a little snare loop on top, and then the squirrel would go up or down that pole, and get the snare around his neck, and they would fall off, and then
My only experience with squirrels is when you're sitting there deer hunting and it sits 5 feet away from you and it just goes. Yeah, I'm like, God. That's when you should set up a couple snares down in the ground by them.
or they sound like a non-typical buck when they're walking
Yeah.
or running.
just
through
go out
the
a couple
woods.
weeks before season and just set all these Victor rat traps, and
Just have some fun
get rid
with
of the
them.
squirrels.
Get
yeah.
rid of
Yeah,
the squirrels.
and back in the day,
All they are is an alarm for the deer, I feel like.
because I'd go squirrel hunt when I was a kid, and back in the day, you could send squirrel tails into MEPS.
You still can?
Do they still have that
Yeah,
program?
I think it's 50 cents. Yep.
Yeah, and you could you get so many, and then they'd send you like a spinner. Yeah, I was trading squirrel tails in for.
I can just picture some dude in the warehouse like getting another box. He's like, all right, send it out.
Well, they need squirrel. That's what they put on the back end of those MEP spinners. A lot of them.
Yep.
Yeah, you can still do that.
I think you could probably find a fly tying supplier too.
Mm-hmm.
Like you go into a fly tying shop and you'll see a hair mask, and it's literally the entire face of a rabbit. You can buy it in a little Ziploc bag, and then you pull certain parts of the face have certain densities of hair, and they use that for certain flies.
You would kind of think with all of the stuff, skunk and
Yeah.
all that stuff, that you could just send the tail in to any company that makes spinners or something and custom. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
All kinds of things to do with critters after you've trapped them.
There is.
Can we talk about it now?
What's your what?
Burbot.
Oh, I'm still on this trapping
Okay.
thing because I'm just so
Go ahead.
clueless to it. But I know hopefully we'll have Matt in here to talk a little bit more about it too. But with you, I think my biggest things was bear, eel pout, a little bit of the wolf, because I don't know if we said it while we were actually in the cast, but we did a little thing like 8 years ago with wolf hunting with you, and I thought that was cool. But let's get into eel pout, I guess, because that's what you want to get into. It's kind of crazy because there's, in my mind, 3 big eel pout people in this area, and I think you're the lowest. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I'm the young buck of the group, but I learned the first time I went out was with Brewer and Rylander.
Yeah.
Matt's a big eel pout guy. I would probably
To
put
me,
him in the
it's
top 20.
It's Tim Rylander and you.
Yeah.
But for you, it's because you like that weird rough fish and that kind of stuff. I'm
So
not
is
saying
this
it's
guy.
rough. I'm not
I
saying
still
it's
have
rough.
to get you bullhead fishing,
Bullhead. Yep.
rock bass. Yeah.
So, eel pout, you are the type of guy where 1, you guide for them, 2, you keep like a binder full of, because there's no records, right? And I kind of
Right.
want to get
Yep.
into that as a question with eel pout, because we'll definitely be talking more about eel pout as we progress through this season 1 here. But there isn't any like regulations on them,
Correct.
so you
Yep.
keep your own regulation type diary type
Data.
journal.
What I do now is I keep a running total. Before, when I really started fishing for them a lot, I was everything that we caught, I would see male, female, the length of it, the weight of it. Every one I put a knife into, I sexed it and did everything like that.
Which should be done. Shouldn't it be done? Like, shouldn't people just do that? Why have the DNR do all the stuff? Like, if we just keep track, then send our. Maybe I'm just speaking out of my ass here, but
some of us are open to doing that, but that's
It's work.
How do you get them to do that?
yeah, it's work.
So, but it got to the point where when I was actually guiding a lot of people, it's just too difficult. If I take a group of 6 guys out
and they can each keep 5 fish. So I'm cleaning 30 fish.
Well, sometimes I'm doing that on the ice, on the lake or whatever, and it's cold. You know, I'm cleaning fish
It's
while those
dark.
guys are. Yeah, it's dark. I'm cleaning fish while they're still fishing, and
It just got to be too much, you know. So then I was just keeping a total each night. Okay,
where I was, put it in my phone, put the depth, what time the bite was, and how many fish we caught.
This slightly goes with what we talked about yesterday, or not yesterday, last podcast about a fishing journal.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about a proper way to keep track of this stuff for personal. Like, let's say your kids open that up and they're like, "Holy crap! There's a map that Dad did," and we can go flip back 5 years from now or 10 years from now, whatever, and be like, "This is the spot he got it. Let's go, try that." I thought that was cool. So we talked about that last. So that's
totally.
kind of cool. It's like a
Yep.
keeping track. And I know or at least I think your numbers from last year.
Last
On
year
the
was
top of your
actually
Just over 1,400.
So
and
Yeah.
that's a lot.
The couple years back when we hit 1,100, that's kind of when I quit measuring all of them and taking the weights off of them and everything like that. It just got to be too much. So, yeah.
So the ultimate goal, and me and you have had, we've actually only pout fished like once or twice,
Yeah,
but we've had
lots of conversations about it.
we know when that time of the season's
That's how it
coming
always
when
is.
when you start getting phone calls at like 10:30 at night, and I'm on Highway 2. Like, oh yeah, here we go. And we've had some great conversations,
Mhm.
and just were you out there? Yep. Okay, I thought I saw you. Yeah, I think I saw you. And okay, how'd you do? And we just start swapping data back and forth.
Yep, yep. And there's actually a lot of stuff that, is just
Kind of,
like we said, there hasn't been a lot of research with them.
Right.
So there's a lot of stuff that
There's no limits.
yeah, there's no limit,
know.
and it wasn't until recently, Eel Pout Festival, the numbers of fish being brought in were declining.
so then the DNR thinks, hey, maybe we should get involved and find out what's going on here.
So, but
Never too late.
Well, and I think more so when the festival started too, more people were serious about actually catching an eel pout. Where now
Right.
you look at the crowd down there,
A handful of them fish for
for fish, and the others really don't care.
Just party.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just a party. So, so it's probably
Two different,
factors.
And I was blown away a few years ago. I brought this up before. My cousin had sent me down fishing regulations from Alaska, and the parts that have eel pout, they have a very low limit. The highest limit I saw, and I can't remember what part it was, but it was only 3. 3 burbot. And I'm like, wow, and we've had that conversation on the phone many times. Like, to me, it's growing in popularity. More and more people are doing it, and eel pout fishing isn't tough per se.
Yeah, you can. I mean, it isn't. No, I mean, it
Basically, all you have to do is go with somebody once or twice that knows what they're half-ass knows what they're doing,
right.
and you can catch an
You
eel
can
pout.
figure it out.
Yeah.
I think when
You guys were talking, you guys were talking with Mike, right? When he was talking about eel pout fishing.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
and how he didn't have the technique down right away, and he
Right.
was just struggling. He was
Oh,
getting
it took him
frustrated.
like 3 days.
Yeah,
and
because-
it's funny because
because
within
everybody else-
15 minutes of me grabbing a rod, I caught one.
Yeah.
It's just,
But it's becoming more popular, and I'd like to see some sort of regulation.
Oh, I agree totally.
I've talked about it many times. They play an important role down
Mhm.
there, and I'd hate for that classic mistake to happen. Like, we got this lake used to have eel pout in it. Now it's just overrun with crayfish and small perch.
Eel pout, they're not available in every lake either.
No.
It's a limited amount of lakes in the area that have them.
Right.
You get into Canada and stuff, and any deep trout lakes got eel pout and burbot.
And
in
that's
there, but
that's the other drawback of being a pout fisherman. Like, I know where to go around here. We all call each other, make sure, okay, yeah, we're cool.
Yep.
But like over where I grew up, there's a lot of deep water. There's, like Lake Vermilion. There's pout in there, but I've never heard anybody targeting them. I'm like,
right.
untapped resource. Could I get over there and get my 10+ pounder, which I'm still waiting for?
Mhm.
And it's that as a pout fisherman, you start like, well, I'm gonna get away from this. Maybe go and get those 2 or 3 to eat, and then I'm gonna venture off and try to find some new some new water,
Right.
you know.
And typically, for myself, being that I'm guiding, one thing I don't like to do is fish the same spot over and over again. So if I take a group, if I take 1 or 2 people out and, they each keep 4 or 5 fish, whatever, that isn't very impactful on that particular resource.
Mhm.
But if I take a group of 6, 8 guys out and they all keep 3, 4, 5 fish, that was impactful. So I'm not going to fish that location again. And then, so every time I don't take people out, when Patrick was with me this last winter, we were just trying some new spots, just motoring around. And
Wasn't it? You guys have said before that since it's growing in popularity and not too many people do it, there isn't a whole lot known about that kind of fishing.
Mm-hmm.
So every time you guys go out, you're trying to just pick apart the mystery of the eel pout or the
Exactly.
burbot and try to figure out what works, the depths, and you go to a walleye fisherman and there's about a million different ways to catch a walleye, and they're like, oh yeah, structure here, structure there. This is what I want. Blah blah blah.
That's it happens all the time. Whether I'm with Rylander or another buddy, Tony Clares. Last year when I was with Tony Clares, we were, I don't know how many walleyes we caught. We probably caught a dozen between the both of us, and we're like, there's too many walleyes here, we gotta move. It was out of season for walleye, but it was still just to hear that, yeah man, there's too many walleyes here, we gotta move. Yeah, let's move. Like,
right.
You're deep into that pout when you're like, man, there's too much game fish here. I gotta move.
So one of the other things too that you guys can nerd out and talk about is spawning of eel pout, fishing them when they're in spawn. Is that better, worse?
It's actually not the best
You want more,
during the spawn.
yeah, you want
Pre-spawn is better.
But you want them like when they're starting to gather, or
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, they're gonna bunch up a lot of
because
times.
they don't want to eat when they're spawning. I'm guessing. Is that what
Well, okay, so
Patrick and I have talked about this a little bit, and
so bluegills, right? They come in, they do their business. The males stay there, right?
Mhm.
So the females leave. So if if you're targeting the bigger fish, you're
you're going to fish them on the beds. Well, guess what?
a lot of the biggest fish we catch, burbot wise, for myself anyways, are males, and it's very surprising because you get this big toad fish. We're talking 28, 29s, 30s, and
Back in the day, I used to keep those. I wasn't about the conservation of the eel pout,
and you put the knife in and you cut it open, and you're like, wow, this is a male, unbelievable. And so
Now, as
So to
I've
determine
watched-
the sex, you cut them open.
well, that's that's what I would have been doing, yeah, because I'm gonna fillet this fish out and keep the meat.
Now you're
and
feeling
everything.
for gonads.
Yeah, you're feeling in there, and, squeezing this fish, and if
If it's during the spawn, you can, the males will molt, and
Yep.
the eggs will come out with the female. But so what I've noticed is
if you want to catch the really big fish, the big females full of eggs, you got to do that fairly early. Like I catch more really big females in
the beginning of January.
into the middle of January, and
Is that when what season for the people who don't know? What
so that's early. I mean that's way
January.
pre-spawn.
And
Yeah,
there is no season for burbot.
yeah, they're, right.
It's
Oh,
just
yeah,
we,
it's-
we call it
okay,
burbot
yeah, I
season
remember that.
because
Yeah, once game
because
fish is
late
over,
season gets better, but you can also get them from the boat, but it's not as easy or something.
right,
I
it's
remember
difficult.
you guys have talked about it before.
So
I'm just a little cloud over here, and your guys'
So what?
you guys love this stuff.
so Aaron, I'm talking to you here.
I'm here.
Okay.
I like it.
So the eel pout, right? So you get males and females kind of mixed. You're not going to get a lot of groups of fish that January time frame. As you get into February, then you start to get more schools of fish. Like you're gonna,
Okay.
if you catch one, you're probably gonna catch a couple more if you got a couple guys fishing. And the females kind of, for me personally, kind of quit biting. As you approach that spawn, the females aren't feeding as much, but the males tend to get more aggressive. So right up until like middle of February, you're going to catch females, and then it tends to kind of drop off. I mean, there's always exceptions. I mean, some of the biggest fish have been caught, end of February, beginning of March, right during the peak spawn. I mean, that's
always happened. Same with walleyes though too. I'm sure these guys go fishing on different bodies of water, border waters and stuff, where you can fish for fish during the spawn, and you'll catch some big females during the spawn. But so then after the spawn, you don't catch any females hardly, but you catch just a pile of males.
And I think that's because they're keeping all these other small fish that are eating the spawn of these eel pout. They're keeping them out of there. That's why you don't need to have
So much of a technique. You know, you can throw anything down there big, and they just come over and hammer it. Yeah. You move it, and they come and pick it up, and they try. It's like they're trying to, like a bluegill. You just drop a jig in there, and they come and smack it and take it out of the bed. Well, that's what these eel pout are doing.
And those smaller fish are usually your perch. Perch and whitefish.
Tullabies,
whitefish. Yep.
And usually you eel pout fish at night, but
typically, right? So
you
the activity
do it in the daytime too, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, we've talked multiple times. I'm looking at Patrick because I know that.
Well, yeah.
We did it. We're talking multiple times about hopefully the stars align for this year to film with you.
Yeah, it was tough.
Like,
yeah,
stars aligning.
And
but I want to do it in the daytime.
Right.
Yeah. That's really going to be that determination of a whole different game break than from last year to this year to just eel pout fishing in general, like getting them during the day. And I know if there's anyone that can do it, it's you, and your numbers are high. So I'm excited because I'd love to get that to happen.
Yeah, and I'll be honest,
season.
I've never eel pouted during the day. I wouldn't know what to do. I'm used to bumbling around in the dark and stepping in holes and all that kind of stuff.
It's great. It is a blast.
It's got to be way better.
Period. Yeah, it's that 1 week period. Sometimes a little bit longer, but
you know, like we said, we tried to coordinate that before.
Yep.
And there's other guys that are taking fishing too that have tried
to do it, and then they get a hold of me
like, oh, we got to do it now. You know, you guys are kind of pressed
Same.
to get your episodes done when you got to
like
get them done. But if
it's
a person can be patient and hold, you know, because it's typically that
it's the end of
first weekend of March, you know, into this, you know, second third weekend.
It would work for us if it was, which we're crossing our fingers that if it is that middle of March, end of March type deal, because right now we've extended from 13 episodes to 17 episodes,
which is awesome. I think
which is awesome, but we've added some open water to it. But that does help us to try to fit.
Well, and the other thing too,
it would be one of the last ice fishing episodes we did.
And that's the other factor about eel pout fishing too is, you know, end of March, there could be unsafe ice. It all depends.
Yeah, that's always a factor.
You know.
And when I book my trips, I try not to take groups like
this 15th, 17th is kind of where I cut it off
to where I'll book anybody because you never know. I mean, you could have good ice until
middle of April and we can still catch fish, but you know, that peak daytime stuff too is really that.
Yeah. And you said it's like a week long. So it's like a small door window.
Yeah, the 9th is kind of 9th, 10th of March.
I kind of put that as peak.
And the many times I've went with Rylander, it's his like St. Patrick's Day weekend. That's when he hangs up the eel pout. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not going to fish eel pout no more. It's over.
Yep.
That's what he calls it, whether it's good or bad ice. That's it.
And you have Eel Pout University?
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Tell me about that brainchild.
Well, it's one of those things, you know, you're sitting there with a group of guys and I'm like, I got to make up a shirt, you know, I got to do something cool. So I'm looking at shirt designs and everything. And, you know,
we've done that. Because we're like, we need broken line stuff. Let's start.
Yeah, you keep running into like university logos. I'm like,
dude, just Burbot University, you know, what?
Yeah, it's cool.
You know,
I'm still waiting for a sweatshirt, but it's cool.
They disappeared awfly quick. So if you got any capital, Aaron, you know, I can get another order and then we can get those things. Yeah,
I'll definitely buy one. I've seen a lot of your family, but I've also seen other people in social media wearing it. I don't. Is it your kids? They were ice skating, wearing it.
Yeah, that would have been my kids. Yeah,
wearing the thing. It's
actually,
cool. It's branding.
Had a couple of their teachers. You know, a couple of their teachers at school bought them. I've already been.
Like, is this a real university? It's so cool.
I had one gentleman, Greg at Trek there. He actually went up to Lake Winnipeg and caught a couple burbot up there, and so he had to sport the shirt for a photo.
Nice.
You know,
I think I actually saw that.
Where I am. So yeah.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
So yeah, got some buddies out in Utah that actually have them. I
So
don't
it's
think
shit-
that
Oh,
they've
are they near the Flaming Gorge?
Flaming Gorge.
Where-
Yeah, I've
where
got
they have
one
a bounty
friend-
on them.
Yeah, you throw them on the ice. I mean, you can't
Yeah.
keep.
I
'em,
remember
so-
6-7 years ago in Bemidji, I busted to a couple out, out with Jake, and we go from house to house and be like, oh, there's 3 at that door, 3 at that door. It's like they're just. And of course, that was 7 years ago. It's gained steam since then.
Well, you
but
can't do that anymore. When I was a kid, I'd go up to Lake in the Woods ice fishing with my dad, and you'd see him laying on the ice all over the place. And they had to stop doing that because next thing you know, the ice, there's coyotes and fox and eagles and all kinds of stuff running around out there. It's never a good deal.
Back in high school and stuff, when I started fishing for them, it was just we catch a couple incidentals, just like everybody else. But I wasn't one to just throw them on the ice and leave them. My dad's like, "Oh, those are darn good." And I'm
Yeah.
like, well,
they are delicious.
And I need to make you
clean
that.
one,
I need to make that burbot mac and cheese for
I'm still
you.
waiting.
It was
Did
so
you see the photo of the burbot pizza?
Yeah, tell Aaron about that. You told me about that.
Okay, so one of the guys I've
I
taken
like
fishing,
pizza.
good friends with actually the owner of Rockies Park Rapids.
Okay.
So he came up. He's actually brought some of his employees up, done like corporate trips,
Mm-hmm.
and we've gone out and fished. But yeah, he took some back, and then he sends me a picture, burbot, garlic.
I was gonna say, how did the topping
Man.
go? So garlic, that
Yeah.
would be the.
I think he used
Garlic butter.
Alfredo sauce on it, and sauteed it in garlic and onions.
I'll try and search out this photo
Yeah,
for the video
I can try to find it.
because that is
There was actually
that sounds delicious. But yeah,
It does.
the eel pout mac and cheese. I'm a mac and cheese fanatic. I'm like,
oh yeah.
I love mac and cheese. I've had lobster mac and cheese. I've had all kinds of different mac and cheese. And then he made it, and there was a few tweaks we had, but it was so minor, and it was good. It was great. But then again, can you throw anything in mac and cheese and it just be awesome if it's homemade mac and
If
cheese?
it's good mac and cheese, yeah.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
eel pout it was good. So it was baked, so it was good.
I go out there and I'm looking for that one because I want to get one mounted someday.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to be a pretty special fish,
10 pounds.
10 pounds of rigger. And but I usually go out, like my first trip, I'll keep 3, maybe 4. And that's my little treat. That's my little eel pout present to myself. I'm going to eat those guys, and then I'm done keeping fish. Then I'm just out there trophy hunting, looking for that 30-plus incher.
Oh, he brought up the photo. All right, you're going to have to email this to me. That looks like a chicken Alfredo pizza,
Yep.
but minus the
seen it.
chicken and swapped with the...
So good.
And I'm hungry
Burbot.
right now.
Yeah.
I didn't eat before I came in, so.
That looks... Okay, so we're not going to hold up the hat, but we're going to do the code because what we want people to do is to listen. So Aspen
101.
101. We'll go with that. So Aspen 101 is the code for them to win the hat, and they have to email or Facebook message it. So anyone out there, he is going to be giving away a hat, and we're going to hold it up later so people don't scroll through the video and be like, oh, that must be where they said it. So message us on Facebook, Aspen 101 as a code, and you're being a drawing to get one of his awesome hats. And at the end, we'll go over it again, and I'll hold up, without saying the code, and I'll hold up the hat and show it off. Represent,
Yeah.
it's like you've said, it's a unique guide service. And I was gonna be like, go to go to his Facebook page and like it, but at the same time, I was gonna be like, yeah, book a guide trip with him. But it's also
you
5
have,
years for some
you
of this
have
stuff.
your own personal page. You have Aspen Outfitters page, right?
Yes.
And then you also have the
Burbot
Pout Man.
Pout Man
And Burbot University.
and yeah. So he's got.
So
If you
I
just
forgot about
if you
the
just
Pout Man.
type in Burbot or Pout in the search bar on Facebook, he's gonna show up. Tim's gonna show up.
Yeah.
And does Bro like catching them? Bro style?
Oh, his wife does. Heather.
I know Heather
Yeah,
does.
Yeah. I'm not, Bro acts excited, we always go, try
Or
to
is
do
he
it
off
every
to
year.
the side looking for perch or something like that? Like, yeah, you guys go play with him.
He's
slimy
like, oh
weird
yeah,
things.
I'm gonna, I know there's 9.5, 10-pound walleyes over here. I'm gonna go for that. Give me a 30
So like when
incher.
Heather and Bro are on the ice, is it kind of like when we have to take the ladies shopping? Like Bro's, like if we were at the mall, me and you'd be out sitting on the bench, talking about burbot while she's inside. Is that like how bro is? Like, I'll let her catch the pout, and I'm just gonna go hang out over here.
No, actually, he gets right into it too.
Does he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we're eventually gonna have him in here, and I was gonna pick on him a little bit about it.
Well, it's like it takes you back to your childhood. Like, if you can take anybody fishing, and you want them to catch fish, whether it's an elderly person or a kid, or anybody in between. Eel pout, when they're biting,
Well,
you're catching 4 to 5 pound fish average, and they bite readily. There's, like we've mentioned, there is a technique, but you
And
can if people pay attention,
there's
they
no
can do it
sharp
right.
edges.
Right, you're not getting spined by any fish.
There's
you're
no
not trying
gnarly
to,
teeth.
They're slimy.
No, not really. I mean, they're smooth skinned.
Yeah. That's true.
It turns to slime, but like a northern,
Oh,
right
nothing's
away.
like a northern.
Right, you throw that on the ice for 15 minutes in the cold, and then pick it up. Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head there when taking a kid fishing. Like, I take my daughter fishing. We go bullhead fishing because I did it as a kid.
Yep.
They're super neat. They do have 3 sharp edges, but she was fascinated by them. She catches all these other big fish, the big rock bass and bluegills while we're doing it, but when she catches a bullhead, she's just fascinated. We got to put them in the live well because she wants to look at their whiskers and all this kind of stuff.
Right, yeah.
So,
Yep.
and I've shown her pictures of burbot, and I think once she's seen one in real life, she would be like all about it. But just looking at pictures, like, Dad, that's weird looking. I said, well, it is, but you'll get it when I take you.
Well, Trent, he had given me a call. I actually had a group out and a couple guys, and he's like, "Hey, any chance we can try to get my daughter on a burbot?" Yeah, come on out. Of course, I talked to the guys and said, "Hey, is it all right if a friend brings out his daughter? Wants to catch an eel pout?" Well, she ended up catching a couple of them that night, but yeah, when they're biting,
It's good to get the kids involved with that kind of stuff.
It's like you're catching a largemouth bass through the ice. They got a big mouth like that. They bite hard. A lot of times you don't even feel it because they just inhale the lure. So then it's just like the kids like picking the rod up and down like, I don't feel bottom anymore. It's like, well, yeah, it's set the hook. You got one on there.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, then the fight's on. And
And one more thing, a lot of people think they're bottom feeders, and they're not. They're a predator.
Definitely. Yeah,
they're a predator.
They're aggressive.
They got a huge
search
mouth
out
for their body.
Yeah.
They will eat.
Yeah, you can throw something down there and a dead minnow, whatever. Coincidentally, a lot of people catch them on, rattle reels in the fish house, but you're gonna catch more if you actually have an action after dark. If it's just sitting there, you'll catch them, but if you're moving it, you're gonna do much better.
And it's very much. I think it's more of an extensive workout than if you do it for real. I just do it from the truck. I just drive to holes.
Yep.
But like you were saying, it's not just 1 or 2 holes. You drill out a big area and you constantly move.
Yep.
Constantly move.
Yeah, it's a search mission, because one night you might catch them in 24 feet of water. Next night, 35.
It changes. I remember.
It changes.
What's the deepest you've caught them at, Tim?
62.
Yeah.
But, that's...
62.
And a guy, 200 yards away could get a couple at 24.
Yeah.
That's kind of part of the fun of it, too.
There's always exceptions. We'll drill a bunch of holes from 65 up
You
to...
just grid it out.
Up to 15 feet.
And, you got... I'll take the kids with or whatever, and we're kind of spread across the entire area, and then all of a sudden, boom, 55 feet. Okay.
Aaron, how much time do we have left?
Well, I was just gonna say lightning round, and it's not really lightning round. It's more like he just says like some random stuff, or I say some random stuff, and you just keep it somewhat short. But didn't really work that way with Jason. He kind of broke the line. But and then after that, I was thinking we haven't talked bears yet, right?
Not really. No.
So we talked about trapping. We talked about your guide service. We talked about eel pout. I think that last to finish it up because we got about 15 minutes or so left.
Yeah.
Did you want to ask him a couple little questions or just skip
I'm
over the top
gonna
of that?
do us all a favor, and I'm just gonna stop with the eel pout stuff because this could go for 6
Oh
hours.
no, the eel pout. Yeah.
But no, I'd like to hear about.
I think if you come back in that eel pout season time, and we just do a
Get 'em off the
strictly,
ice.
yeah, if we can get off.
We'll have to figure out how to call
live
you.
on the ice. Yeah.
Try
Well,
to
it
do
still
a in
works.
the middle of season type, a quick, short, fast. Let's talk eel pouting this year type deal. But we'll figure those details out.
But yeah, since we're let's see, when's bear season closed now?
Actually, I believe it's the 15th.
Yeah, so we're getting close to the end of it, and
Yeah.
you were successful, very successful.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good year.
Talk about. I want to hear more about this. The article you wrote for Duluth, was it Duluth Tribune?
Well, actually, Outdoor News.
Outdoor News.
Yep. And
About
then
population.
yeah. So right now, the DNR has been reducing permit numbers every year since like roughly 2000. And right away it was significant, and then it was smaller increments. They gave out like 18,000 permits right around 2000, 2001. And now they're down to, I believe it was rated at 3,300 this year.
That's
Oof,
it.
That's a
Right.
Wow.
that's a cut for
So,
sure.
and I don't know if you guys are real familiar with it, but there's a quota zone and a no quota zone. So in the quota zone, you apply for your permit, and that's broken into different hunting areas, similar to deer permit areas, that type of thing. Outside of that, it's no quota, and up until just a couple years ago, you could actually just go over the counter and you get 2 bear license for the no quota area. So a lot of guys, as they reduced these number of permits, decided to go hunt the no quota area because they could just go buy it over the counter. They didn't need to, wait for the lottery, whatever. A lot of that area outside is actually private property. You have a lot of agricultural land and things like that. So,
Do you do private or public?
There's some private stuff that I hunt.
that I take guys on, but
Most of it's actually Chippewa National Forest.
Okay.
So,
which
in itself requires another, land use permit through the Forest
Yep.
Service.
I have to, keep special records for them, that type of thing. But, so what I was touching on that, there was actually a report that, I don't remember the title of the article, the headline, but they were surprised at the success of the bear hunters amidst the low population of bears that are evidently in the woods. And it's kind of nice, actually. Another bear guide had called me last night. He had read that little excerpt in the Outdoor News, the commentary, and he says, "Wow, you really nailed it. The good article or whatever." And so we got to talking. He's been a guide for nearly 40 years for bear, so he's been doing this for a long time. And he said that what sticks out to him was like 1995 was a year where there was a lot of bear. Last year was, of course, a good year for us, but this year, he said when you go out and do your baits, and then the next day you go to freshen everything up and rebait what the bears have eaten and everything like that. If you do all of your baits and then only 2 of them weren't hit that first night, and that's going to be a promising season. And from there on out, it was pretty much 100%. Occasionally there'd be one that wasn't hit, and that's kind of the same thing I'd seen. You go back to 2000. And shortly thereafter, trail cameras. You're using 35 millimeter. You're using film, and you're not actually.
Yeah.
It's just not easy.
Do you get it sent to your phone now?
No, I don't do any of the
We
wireless
were on
ones
topic
yet.
of that one too.
And I would, but when you're looking at $350 or so for a camera that a bear might just chew up just because it smells like something, and might take a bite out of it. Yeah, so I really want to do that, but it's just not in the cards right now. So, but there's locations this year that I baited where in the past, if I had 1 or 2 bear visits, to that site, I'd be pretty happy with it because I provide 2 baits for every hunter. So
2 bait piles.
2 bait locations, and each one has a 2-person ladder stand, and everything like that. So if something isn't working for them, they can go to the other site. But and there'll be bears there.
That's the one thing I guarantee: 2 active bait sites. But so some of these spots where I'd always see 1 bear, 2 bear during the course of an entire season, now there's a dozen. It's just overrun. They're everywhere. Right. And
so the lottery or the permits went down, but the population went up. Is that what you're?
Well, I'm saying that the population went up, yes, and so are the other guides. We're in agreement that it's definitely worked as to what they were trying to do. Now, last year was kind of a slightly higher harvest than what they anticipated,
and there was more females shot. So, okay, say for example, you got a population of animals in the woods, and if there's good reproduction in one given year, what are you going to see more? I mean, really, so you've got 10,000 bear in the woods. How many of them are reproductive age, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So then they have, so many cubs. Well, a good sow could actually, some of them have 3, 4. I've even got images of bears with five cubs. I mean, that's definitely not the norm, and she could have stole them from another sow, whatever, adopted them. Something could have happened to the other animal. But when you've got successful reproduction, and you've got all these bears that are repopulating, and the harvest, because bear mortality comes back to humans. Whether they're run over by a car or hunted, whatever it is.
Because nothing really eats them.
Right. You have bears will kill bears, but
that's what I was just gonna say.
Right.
Like, I was just gonna ask you, like, when you're doing a hunt, do you primarily tell your clients to shoot the boars?
Right.
Because the boars will eat cubs.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. They'll kill the cubs. And also by shooting the boars, we're trying to, ensure the reproduction of the bear. Because a single male can go and breed, however many females, but you can't reverse the role. If you take a female out, she's not going to have cubs. The male ain't going to have cubs. So,
Right.
So anyhow, long and short of it, I basically was kind of, the DNR was saying that the population was still in decline, and I don't know what formula they're using exactly, but they've been reducing the permit numbers every year. So what is their baseline? Because nothing is constant.
Well, would they be getting their information from you?
Well,
as a guide,
they
that's
don't
where
really do much, with us. I mean, okay, so each bear that you get, the hunter has to turn in a tooth that ages the bear, so they can see. But last year there was a lot of young bears shot. So they said in the article, it said because of the fact that there was a large number of young bear, they're not reaching reproductive age. Well, where do these bears come from? They're not just popping out of the rocks, in the forest. So there is bears of reproductive age out there. But you don't get a good assessment. I mean, if you look at white-tailed deer, most people shoot a 1.5-year old deer. That's just the fact of it.
Yep.
And they get a license every year. So now if you have a bear license and you have to wait 4 years to get it and you want to be successful,
you're going to shoot the little, shoot whatever.
You're going to shoot whatever presents itself. So it's really difficult. And I know we're running short of time here. But
no, you're fine.
Okay.
And that's what I was going to ask about them seeing a lot of the young bears being shot. Is it because, do you think bear hunting in general is increasing in popularity, where you're getting that, it's my first time bear hunting, oh my God, there's a bear,
I need to get it. Yeah.
Well, that, and you have a lot of guys that have hunted bear multiple times, and they're like, I just want to eat her bear. I don't want that 350 pounder. Just give me a 185
I may have
pounder.
already got that rug on my wall.
Yeah, they've already got a 3/4 mount or a rug on the wall. They just want something to eat then at that point. So there's a lot of aspects that they can't factor into their formula. And so with all these
sounds
young
like there's a flaw, a little flaw.
There is. There is. It might be multiple flaws. Yeah. But, not to criticize. I mean, they're trying to do the best that they can, but I think if they got hands-on and actually came out into the field, looked at the camera photos that I've got, I can draw them a map.
Well, you're the best resource.
Yeah.
I would think.
And we're kind of spread out across the entire state, up into the Arrowhead. There's a variety of guys clear down by, Garrison all the way up to Thief River Falls and Roseau. And
it almost sounds like the Department of Natural Resources should have some sort of like a round table. They did those years ago for fishing.
Yep.
Fishing round tables where they actually invited the public, fishermen, guides, people that just went fishing every other month, whatever. They should almost do something like that with the bear.
Well, they actually do meet with, there's a guide association.
Okay.
And there's a handful of us. Last year was the first year, I just joined that. And so I was at the first meeting, and there was a guy there from the DNR, and, he basically told us, well, population is about the same. We're probably not going to adjust the permit, numbers, blah, blah, blah. But we definitely want to see more males shot than females, and some older bear. So that's kind of what happened. I mean, I think personally we shot older bear this year. We shot more males. And the females that we did take, I never encourage anybody to shoot one that has cubs with it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Makes sense.
Yeah. So
if is this article online?
Yeah, it is actually on the. I tried to find that particular article the other day again in the Star Tribune website.
If you want to Facebook it to me so we can, or message me so we can put the link up if anyone wants to read that the full story.
Yeah, and
of
there's actually been a couple of them now too. The fellow from, I believe his name is Sam, if I'm not mistaken, from Duluth News Tribune. There was kind of a mid-season report that they did as well because after they, looked at the sex of the bears and everything that was coming in, he had contacted a different individual, and then he called me and said, "Hey, what's your take on this after the outdoor news thing?" So there's some information that's in that as well, kind of that.
Very cool.
How I feel about it.
It just, I don't know. I feel like they should be using the guide services to the full extent and full resources as they possibly can.
Yeah, we want to manage it. I mean, more so than anybody.
Exactly.
We don't want it to be depleted. We
Right.
want to do what's best for everybody involved. And, it's to that point. I don't necessarily think that they need to raise permit numbers or anything, but I think if they keep the permit numbers the same, then in their whole formula, something's a constant. Because I don't know of anything that is actually a constant now.
Yeah.
Because how do you factor in human decision making? Because the factor that the hunter is just going to shoot what comes in if it's a shootable bear. You can't legally shoot a cub, and you shouldn't shoot a sow with cubs. So it's either going to be a dry sow or it's going to be a boar. Theoretically, and most of the time it's a 1.5 or 2.5-year-old bear that the hunter shoots. So
is that too low? Is that low? Well, you want it to be older than that, right?
The DNR wants it to be older, and those that actually are trophy hunters are capable of doing that. But how much of your hunting population is true trophy hunters to where they're trying to shoot that 10-year-old bear?
Yeah, like we said before, there's the trophy hunter that's already got his trophy and he wants something to eat, and then there's the first timer.
Yeah,
it's like, I just want to get one under my belt.
Yeah,
and this is going to be the one.
And okay, so you get a bear, you get your first bear when you're 25, 30. Okay, you got to wait 5 years to get your next bear. It's almost like your first bear again because you've had to wait so long. It's like Christmas. These guys are so excited when they get their license, when they get drawn again, that they just want to come up and experience it, and they're not going to be very picky. Guys will tell me that right when I'm taking them into the woods. I know you got a big one here. I've seen the pictures of it, but yeah, that 200-pounder, that looks really nice to me though. Okay, if you're happy with it, I'm happy. And so these other big bear are still out there. They're gonna, they're not gonna go anywhere.
If you're limited on how much time you have every 5 years, that's like if you only could eat pizza every 5 years, you don't care what's on the pizza. You're just gonna eat the pizza.
Or even the size of it. Oh, that's really tiny.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's there's a lot of different things that need to be considered, but I just hope that they can come up with a good formula to actually see where the population is. With the wolves, they give you a number like 2,756 wolves in the state. There's last year there was 439 packs. This year there's 500. Well,
how do you get that?
I'm confused. Yeah,
how do you get that number?
You're getting that specific with the wolves, which are even more elusive than the bear. I mean, when I'm getting wolves on my trail cameras at the bear baits and they're eating trail mixing gummy bears, that isn't the wolf's diet. Yeah. They should not be eating that food.
If anything, it would almost keep them away.
Yep. I've actually got some videos on my Facebook page too on the business website where I've got wolves and of course I have to identify every bait with my name and address and all that information. And it's this white sign, 6 to 10 feet above the bait, within 20 feet of the bait, and the wolves they'll reach down into the pit to grab something, then they'll look up and they'll kind of flinch at the sign. Well, the sign never even moved, but they just are always on edge about that darn sign that's up above their heads. So, so
it's what's in their mind,
right? Yeah, something's gonna get them.
Something's gonna get the craziness that it is when it comes down to nature, right? I mean, it's so unpredictable. You don't know what's gonna happen, and you're fighting not only the hunters, but like you said, the DNR and what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, what guidelines do they want to pass for different, seasons or different what you can take, what you can't take. It's hunting.
I think the big message is, Department of Natural Resources, come and talk to us. hunting, fishing.
here.
We're here. We're out there as
want to
much
help.
as possible.
This is part of my income.
Yeah, we want to
It's
help.
my passion.
That's
you
the
know?
big. I think that's the key point. We want to help.
Yep.
We're not telling you that. We're not going to tell you you're doing something wrong, because I don't have a degree in biology or wildlife management or fisheries.
Like I said, I don't know their formula.
But here's my observations, and this might help you.
That's exactly like you just said. Is you're here to make Aspen Outfitters. You're here to just this is your income, this is your life, and you want it regulated as best as possible. But you have all the knowledge of what you're seeing. So if there's 15 people like you or 50 people like you or more, they take all that information. It's like they didn't even have to get off their chair.
Right. Yeah.
You could just email all that.
Right there. Yeah. Just
do some questions. We'll
be happy to answer.
Yeah.
What's your quick answer? What's your favorite thing to hunt? Hunt, guide, trap. What's if you could only live on doing one more, what would it be?
Moose hunt.
Really?
Moose hunt.
Yep.
How about that moose in Bemidji?
that poor thing. I mean, for people.
Oh
to
my
chase
God,
it
dude!
across-
I was
They
so
almost,
pissed.
the
On social
public
media.
almost drowned that thing.
And then the Pioneer had the guts to. Their cover photo was the picture of it swimming
with the boat,
with a
right
boat
behind it.
25 feet behind
Right.
it.
That thing was already
taking
exhausted
pictures.
at that point. Like,
I don't care if that.
It
boat's
swam
there.
from McDonald's across, and it actually might have went
I think
across and then
the
back.
first time, yeah.
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 Just unreal. But yeah, that was another thing when you say about scarce animals. I mean, a moose was in front of McDonald's in Bemidji.
Yeah.
Like how cool! Like,
Unbelievable.
and of course Bemidji had to attack it with photos and.
Is the moose hunting, is that once a lifetime now? Still?
It was, and there actually is no Minnesota moose season now.
Okay. Yeah, because I remember my dad, he went many years ago. I was little, and it was once every 10 years, and he ended up going twice, and then after that it was once in a lifetime.
Yep.
And now there's none.
Yeah. So this is crazy. So Buddy and I
I don't know if we can go into this or not.
You can go.
time-wise. We'll just
We
go.
just go, and
Just
I'll
go
cut
with
you
it?
off if it gets too
Alright.
long.
So, Buddy and I talked about, hey, we got to apply for the moose hunt, and he's like, yeah, hey, let's go up to this part of the Boundary Waters. It's really cool here.
Yeah, because that
And
moose
they're-
hunt, back in the day, it was that northeast corner up there.
Okay. Yep.
Yep, Isabella, Ely, Boundary Waters, that area.
Yeah. Then so he just picked a spot. He's like, hey, look at they give out a decent number of permits.
Let's apply there.
I've been there like 2-3 times or whatever. But I said, did you see a moose? No, but all right. Well, all right. So we went in and applied and everything, and I was planning on going to Utah on an elk hunt, and the wife comes into the house one day and
She's like, so you got some decisions to make. I said, really?
That's
What's
never
that?
a good sign.
I know, yeah, right.
I'm thinking, okay, she just got the mail, and I'm like,
So what? And she goes, well, are you
you
gonna
gonna go to Utah, or are you gonna shoot that Minnesota moose? I'm like, what?
Were they over this? Oh, they were overlapped.
It was like, well, financially,
Oh,
work
yeah,
vacation,
okay.
everything, yeah, just all kinds of different factors. But I'm like, well, how do we get drawn? I mean, I know people that applied for 11, 12, 13 years,
Never got drawn for a moose hunt. Well,
first year in, we got drawn. I'm like, I'm doing the moose.
so
We went out there, scouted. It was like 2 weeks before season. We just went into an access point and did day trips in. We ended up paddling collectively like 41 miles and hiking in those 2 days to scout. And we found some miraculous moose sign. I mean, I was pumped.
When you just haven't been around moose, just white-tailed deer. I've never been
Moose hunting, and then I'm hiking through the woods, and there's no deer sign up there, So all of a sudden, boom! Here's like a 10-foot scrape, and here's this,
12-foot balsam tree, just branches
Scraped
are
up.
ripped off.
all rubbed up, and the bark's gone, and you're like, yes. And then you go a little farther down the trail, and here's just a huge track, So it was awesome. We were pumped. We were pretty excited. So, we
picked out a campsite that we thought would be good in relation.
But this
to
was
that.
still scouting.
We were still scouting,
Okay.
yeah. So it's like, okay, when we come back in 2 weeks,
this is where we're gonna hunt.
we want to get this campsite on this lake.
And so
We both had to work
that Friday or whatever, and we drive over to Duluth.
grab a bite to eat,
And actually, if I remember right, we both left from Cass Lake. On the scouting trip, though, I met him in Duluth, and then we went out. But so we grabbed a bite to eat, got up there. It's 10:30 at night or whatever. It's already dark.
Mm-hmm.
We're heading into the Boundary Waters. Just
Not a good thing to do at
headlamps,
night.
just going, moonlight and everything. We paddle in there. We get to where we wanted to camp at, and there's people there.
Of course.
So we go farther down the lake. There's people at that campsite. Go farther down. Finally, boom, there's one that's open. All right, it's not the ideal one we wanted, but we'll settle for it. And I had a buddy from the cities that wanted to come, and he was going to film. So, okay, well, he's supposed to be up there at like 10:30. And when we tried to get a hold of him, he was just leaving. So he ends up, it's, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. We have no cell reception, so we just had to go back out to the vehicles and wait for him. And it was 5.5 miles in from where we were. So get back out to the vehicles. Here he finally comes, paddle across the lake, and he's just got this big, it's more like a boat than a canoe. But he's a big guy, so he needed something that could carry all the weight or whatever. And so he's kind of zigzagging back behind us, because you don't have the two people paddling, so steering was,
But zigzag.
Yeah, so we tried to go to sleep that night. No, next thing you know, it's 5:30. We got to get in the canoes and head to the spot to hunt. We get there. Somebody had put branches over that trail and blocked it. So it was camouflage. Like, we got there. We're like, what in the world? It's right here, isn't it? And then, move a few branches, and there's this trail. It's just like hidden gem. So we hike back in there and everything, and it's dark, and we start calling a little bit right before you could shoot, and there's bulls grunting. 2 bull moose grunting.
That's
We're
cool.
like, yeah. And we take the canoe paddling, we're raking on this branch and everything, and I think we just got way too aggressive. I mean, we actually scared the moose, like here he is ready to fight, and we scare him off by hitting the canoe paddle too hard on the branches or whatever. So that whole day went by.
So no one was there, even though you blocked up that.
Yeah, nobody was in there. No, and we would have, they would have had a canoe there or something.
Okay.
Yeah, it would have been obvious. But so we ended up going in there. Buddy slept. The cameraman slept like most of the day. He's
The usual camera
logs.
guy.
Yeah, I know. But so we went and did a little bit more scouting in that area and tried calling in a few more locations. Nothing happened. Next day, white caps, 45-mile-an-hour winds, downpour. Like, this is great.
Just crappy weather.
Yeah, so we sat in the tent for like the first part of the day, and Buddy's still sleeping. It's like, all right, so Joe and I, we're going to head out, and so we just walked from the camp because you couldn't take the canoe anywhere. You couldn't travel on the water at all. It was way too rough. And so we hiked up from the camp. We ended up finding a decent spot. And the sun finally came out, and it was almost too nice because it actually got hot. And, of course, moose, being a big animal, don't like to move around when it's hot and everything like that. So that afternoon passed. Yep. That afternoon passed unsuccessful as well. So day 2 is gone, and nothing had happened. So day 3, we wake up in the morning, and it's like, we're going to that other spot. So canoeing down there. And actually, the buddy that night when the storm let up, he decided he needed to go back to the cities. So
he just did nothing.
We didn't know anything at the time, but he had a girlfriend waiting for him down there that he had to go see. So, I don't blame him, but he should.
I do.
Sorry. I know if you're listening, or when you listen, I guess you should have been there.
Yeah.
But he's heard that already because that next morning, we paddled back to that spot. We started calling right away. We had bull moose grunting at us, and Joe called for like an hour, and this thing would respond, and that sounded like a skidder coming. You just hear snap, and trees are breaking, and
that'd be such a cool experience.
Oh, it was unbelievable, and your heart's racing, and you're like, that thing's got to be right. I mean, we're gonna see it in seconds. Minutes later, 20 minutes later, it's still coming. You can hear it. It's just like, how far off was that thing when it started?
Yeah.
And so his voice, he actually lost his voice, and so then I started calling. And we didn't hear it for a while. And we're like, did it just...
You suck.
Yeah, well, it actually quit responding partway through him, and I think that's because he was starting to screech a little bit, and it was all out of whack. So, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes I called, and then all of a sudden, just way off in the distance, you hear that... You hear that grunt.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
For just a little in studio action.
Yeah. And so we kept calling again, and the thing started coming, and it was just like the first time, but it was coming quicker. And Joe's got the camera up, and he's trying to film it, you know. And we didn't have a tripod or anything with us, so he's holding the camera. And the plan was when we saw the moose, we were gonna 3, 2, 1, and we were both gonna shoot simultaneously. Not determine who got the moose. Hopefully, both of us made a good shot on it, and you know, we'd split it 50-50. And so he's holding the camera, and he's like, I gotta put it down. I'm like, no, just keep filming. We gotta get this thing on film first, you know. And then it just, boom, it comes right out into the open. And I end up picking the
It's like goose hunters.
Well,
they're go, and then they drop the camera, and then
right.
they shoot.
And you hear boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Well, I ended up holding the camera, you know, briefly. He set it down. And so I picked the camera up, and here comes the moose around the corner of this big rock out in this meadow. And you just see just the rack, and it was unbelievable. I mean, there it is right there in front of us.
It's awesome.
And you just see steam coming out of the nostrils and everything, and it's just like drooling, ready to fight, you know. And
It sounds like at this point you could care less about Utah.
oh, yeah. At this point, Utah was, it was already out of my mind, way out of my mind. So I'm like, he's like 3, 2. I'm like, no, I don't have a shot, you know. And so then I get an opening, and I'm like, okay, 3, 2, 1, and I shoot. He doesn't shoot. I'm like, you didn't shoot. He's like, well, I didn't have a shot. I'm like, yeah, but we agreed that we were both going to shoot at this moose. He's like, I didn't have a shot. I wasn't going to, chance it. Like, all right, well, we seen it run out to the edge of the opening, and then it disappeared. And we were up on like this 30-foot rock face, right down into the water it was. I said, well, get down there, maybe you'll still see it. So he slides down the rock, feet first, and just tucks and slides down this like a water slide into the water. It's only like a little over knee deep or whatever. Sploosh, he hits the bottom. And as soon as he gets to the bottom, he just raises up his gun and he fires 2 shots because the moose was on the edge of the opening. So he did get to, he did hit the moose and shoot it as well. And then it ran back into
So
the
you
middle.
hit the moose?
I hit the moose, yeah.
Okay, so you both
right through the lungs. So this thing is, it's going to expire,
Yeah.
And this was all in a matter of 25, 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Start to finish. And then I see it run back out into the opening and it just tips over. So
where's this footage?
So it's actually on YouTube.
All right, I'm downloading it and putting it into this.
A lot of it is pretty boring because it just has.
I just want that.
Yeah.
Couple.
Well, you
seconds
get to
of
hear
it.
us like schoolgirls. I mean, we're running. The camera did not record during the shot or anything. I don't know what happened. Like if the
Of course.
Right.
The curse of the camera.
Yeah.
Bigfoot moment.
Okay, so I get the camera as I go down that rock slide, and I don't remember even what footage I had of the moose going down or whatever, but we're running over there, and you just hear us, oh my god, and we're like, dude, and I never,
Kids
I
in a
never
candy
even,
store.
I never even knew I used that word so much, but like, dude, and we just kept saying it. Look at the size of it, yeah, and it was just that was a
So
thrill.
that's your number one.
That's my number one. Yep.
That's awesome.
And I've made a couple attempts. I've gone to Ontario a couple times, and for whatever reason, the stars haven't aligned. But I'm doing it archery. I'm going to be 15 yards from that big snotty, steaming bull moose just
Angry.
waving his rack through the brush. Yeah.
And moose don't have any fear.
No.
Oh, no.
That's
I have an uncle that lives in Schroeder, Tofty.
I don't think a moose could
North
fit
Shore.
in this room
No.
very well.
you go. I've gone elk hunting a couple times, and you spook an elk, or it's just going to run off. Or you get
You
that
could
close
yell
to
at the moose
you
10
get-
feet away, and it's like, what?
Yeah, he's
Come
already.
at
He's
me.
like, yeah, I'm going to take you out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember my dad telling me about his moose hunt, and he had observed some bulls. He goes, I don't know how they do it, but they take off through the brush and they barely move a limb. They tilt their head back, and they lay those paddles back, and they can slip right, like gone.
do.
Like you'd never even see a twig move. And here's this animal that's, 7 foot at the shoulder,
Right.
1,000 pounds. Like he's like, it blew his mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like all that noise that it made when it was coming to us.
Yeah,
And then when it disappeared that one time, we never heard a stick break, nothing.
nothing.
You didn't hear anything. And
It's
then
like a
it's here
ghost.
hundreds of yards away from us all of a sudden.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
If you
so-
could pick one fish and a quick thing, what would it be? What kind of fish?
Favorite fish?
Yep. Only could fish this one fish for the rest of your life. I mean, I kind of would think I know the answer, but
it would be burbot.
it would be
Yeah.
burbot. 'Cause
My
you can
next
survive off
fishing
that.
trip is, if if I go anywhere, it's going
Out to the Flaming
Gorge, going to Utah.
I think that's on a lot of people's bucket lists.
I think me and you should go to Lake Superior first.
We
I'll
could do
talk to you
that.
about that later.
Sounds good.
All right, so podcast 11, we talked with Tim about a little bit about his guide service, a little bit about eel pout. Awesome, moose story there at the end. We talked about trapping. We talked a little bit about your life, and I'm hoping you come back again and we hit another series of different things. But you're giving away, because we're kind of doing this giveaway thing where all of our guests bring something fun, and we're starting to also now include where we just throw stupid things in a box and we ship them up, like chips in a Sprite. You throw it in a box, be like, you want it, here you go, send it off. So we're gonna try and start doing more giveaways.
That's about all that's good for. Sprite, give it away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we're in order to get into these giveaways, you have to find the code that we say at every single episode that we do giveaways. We're gonna have a code, and we're gonna mention the code. You just message us this code on Facebook, and you get in the drawing for the item. So he is giving away a hat, one of his awesome hats from his company. Look him up on Facebook. Check out all his pictures, his videos. Obviously, that moose video is out there somewhere in the world.
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
I want to hear the girl scream.
Aspen Outdoors.
Aspen Outdoors. I'll try to get some of that footage into this. Just a little girl scream or something real quick.
Yeah.
But same as usual for us. I mean, hit us up with comments, questions, like, subscribe, share. Yep. YouTube, SoundCloud, Google Play. We're now on something FM. I posted it on Facebook like a week ago.
There's
something
all
FM.
kinds of different apps that are podcast managing apps.
I think it's Player FM.
Yeah.
Like when you Google Broken Line, comes up with like Google Play and iTunes and SoundCloud, YouTube, and then like that one. But yeah, there's tons of apps. So yeah, number 11. It was good because every time we have a guest come in, it doesn't really matter what we talk about, but we talk about interesting stuff that relates to your life, our life, fishing, hunting, and you kind of brought it all. Yeah. And the eel pout was a good talk because
there's always common ground in the outdoors.
There is. Yep.
Yep.
Well, it's that, that talk, like, we're sitting at either the bait shop or the coffee shop in the morning, whatever, just,
bait shop bar banter.
Yep, exactly.
Where we just chat. So, again, like us all on all our social media. Hit us up. Ask us for questions and comments on the next one. Don't forget the guide service hat. He is, or the outfitter hat, sorry. He's giving away. We dropped the code at some point during this thing. How was it? Did you have fun?
Oh, I had a blast.
For an hour and 37 minutes of conversation.
Hey,
that's great.
When it's crazy because if it wasn't for us just kind of tightening it up, I mean, we could go on about other conversations, and we could have went on.
I told you could easily pull 4 hours in here.
Not a problem. Yeah,
wouldn't be a problem at all.
Yep.
We just need more.
He's like, get some pizzas or something in here.
Yeah, it's dinner time. Let's go.
Well, let's wrap her up.
But so
thank you guys. I mean, it's been great.
It's great. We hope you come back.
Thank you.
And we having guests on is just fun because we get a little insight of your life as well as our life, but at the same time, other people get to hear an outsider's perspective than us just jabbering. I mean, you have awesome stuff to talk about and awesome information, and I like the bear talk on that DNR thing too. I think that's a big deal. But you haven't ate yet, and we're happy you came on the show. So I'm Aaron.
I'm Patrick.
I'm Tim.
And I'm Patrick.
You cut him off.
I'm sorry. Okay, cut. You gotta cut this out.
There's no cut scenes.
Start over.
All right, I'm Aaron.
I'm the Pope Man.
I'm the nice.
And I'm Patrick.
And this is
The Broken Line.
Sing. It's kind of a really awesome name, right? The Broken Line. You're talking about fishing, but when the line breaks, man, shit just gets unreal. Yeah!